Gary Nelson, you're our first repeat guest.
Thanks, Chris.
That speaks to the quality of the content that I think we're going to have
of the hot air
show.
we're going to have today. The quality
Exactly.
is the best hot air there is.
It's the best hot air around. Well, and we were just talking about. So you and I. Let's preface this. We were talking about all the AI things happening right now, and that's really a hot topic. And then with the reference to real estate, right?
Yeah.
That almost just like. You ask ChatGPT to do something, it's going to spit out an article, and a lot of mainstream media is almost just like ChatGPT. Like they're the people writing things right now are basically taking a high level, not really getting into the details, and spitting something out.
Yeah.
Right. And so we thought we talked about it could be fun.
Sound bites and clickbait, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we thought it'd be fun to put ChatGPT to the test a little bit today. But you were talking about it. We said, hey, let's not go just yet. Let's click record on this because we don't want to miss some.
Yeah, because we have a tendency
gold.
to just start talking.
Yeah. So you were saying you were doing some ChatGPT research preliminarily.
Well, yeah, I've been playing around with it for a few months now. I'm just curious about what it is and not afraid to dive into something new. And so I jumped into it, and from the beginning, it writes really well. I mean, if you ask it to write something, it writes really well. But
punctuation and spelling are dialed.
Yeah, it's dialed in there, as you would expect.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's kind of interesting, the research that it does. It can get its wires crossed real quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it can. So I would urge anybody listening to this to make sure that they research what ChatGPT is spitting back out at them again, so they're not making any mistakes.
Sure. And so I thought it would be fun to. Well, and I will say, so me and Cole were playing with, so we haven't done a lot of preliminary research just yet.
Right.
So this will be a live show, kind of in that sense, to where we thought it'd be fun to kick in a couple of things just to see where ChatGPT gets real estate questions right and where it gets it wrong.
Yeah.
I did notice when we were playing with it yesterday, I did appreciate that they had the disclaimer on real estate is highly localized and highly personalized. And so you should talk with the local real estate agent. Is what it said. So I was like,
that's what it should be saying.
It should be saying that, right? And so, are there any questions that you want to kick off? We have a couple that we thought of, but we haven't put them in yet. Is there anything that you think would be a good?
I did a couple just this morning. I wasn't sure how, exactly what we were going to do today. So I said, write a 200-word blog about the current real estate market conditions in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay.
That was one.
Yeah. What was the high level of that?
I fairly generic. It actually is okay. It talks about Flagstaff, and it says Flagstaff's real estate market has remained remarkably stable even in the face of broader economic fluctuations. This resilience can be attributed to various factors, including the city's limited supply of land, strong job market, and consistent population growth. The demand for housing in Flagstaff remains high, attracting both local buyers and those seeking a peaceful retreat from larger metropolitan areas. That's not bad.
No, that is...
That's not bad.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
So is it crawling like other articles that people are probably
writing? I think it probably is. It's probably crawling a few articles here and there. It talks about prices and inventory. It talks about the rental market, investment opportunities, and then a conclusion. Yeah.
That
wasn't
pretty
bad,
incredible.
right? That one paragraph.
That one paragraph's not bad. Did they have any left fielder pieces?
No, I didn't see anything. I haven't had a chance to totally scrutinize it, but it says, in conclusion, Flagstaff, Arizona stands out as a steadfast real estate market characterized by stability, strong demand, and limited inventory. Its scenic beauty, diverse economy, and vibrant community make it an enticing place to live and invest. And it goes on from there. So it's really not bad sentences.
So we would give, and you can edit in, Cole, I would give ChatGPT a 10 out of 10 on that.
Yeah. Oh, would you?
I would.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you give a pretty high rating? If we're going to rate these things here?
I think so. I don't know if I'd give it a 10. I would like to maybe...
have more specific data.
Maybe my expectations are too much. Maybe some statistics.
Yeah. So barring statistics, maybe we'll go with an 8.
Yeah.
You can give actual local statistics,
Right.
but and its generalizations are, I would think, are very accurate.
But I was wondering if
It didn't mischaracterize
can it
it.
crawl aggregating websites like Realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow, maybe get some stats that way?
That would be curious to know. Like, is its database just regurgitating what other people have written, or is it coming to its own conclusion based off of crawling data and seeing, like, oh, I can see the listings.
If I was
available
to
on Zillow,
guess, I would guess that it's reading other people's blogs and Facebook posts, like things, that kind of thing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not too bad, right?
No, that's where I'd say its characterization. It lacks detail,
Right.
but its characterization is accurate.
Yeah, it is.
So I did one here. So
Okay, go ahead.
So I did. Is it a good time to buy a home?
Oh,
Right. Of course, it gives you the opinion disclaimer because it doesn't want to give opinions. So it says financial stability. So it gives 4 points: financial stability, assess your current financial situation, ability to afford it, kind of thing. Market, housing conditions, research the local housing market and where you plan to buy. Look at factors like home prices, inventory levels, market trends. It could be helpful to consult a real estate agent. Third, this is really fun. Interest rates. Keep an eye on prevailing mortgage rates. Lower rates can make home ownership affordable. Higher rates increase your monthly payments. Thanks, ChatGPT, for that.
That's pretty deep.
And long-term plans. Consider the future plans. It may, if you plan to stay in the area for a significant amount of time, buying a home could be a good investment. However, if you plan in the future to move, renting could be more flexible. And then it does give the whole connect with a financial advisor or real estate professional for personalized information. I would give that more of like a 4 or 5.
Yeah, I would too. That's
It's not wrong. It's
in
just
golf that would be laying up, right?
Yeah.
So.
And so that's, anything that, what do I, like when we take continuing education stuff, like continuing education, or if I have any, like when we just came over to Benchmark, we had to redo all our HR training. And I'm like, if it's something where I have to watch a 20-minute video and I could have aced the test
right
before I watched the 20-minute video, why am I watching a 20-minute video?
Right.
So that's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think my 4th grader could tell me, hey, if you have a higher interest rate, what do you think your payment is? And they'd say higher. I'd say, you are correct. You can't even spell amortization. You are correct. So, okay. Do you have any other ones? Any other ones there?
Well, another example, you mean?
Yeah. Any other good questions we need to be asking ChatGPT?
Well, I did another one here this morning. I said, write an advertisement about Chris Hallows, a mortgage lender in Flagstaff, Arizona, that is employed by Benchmark Mortgage and previously employed by Wallach and Volk Mortgage. And this would be another, what I would say, golf kind of a laid up.
Okay.
Because I would hope that this person would, or it's not a person, but it's an entity, right? No, I would assume that they would crawl, ChatGPT would crawl your website.
Yeah.
And maybe even go back in time to what you've had in the past and maybe take a look at your history or something like that. It wrote a very good ad. It's quite long. It's a couple hundred words, it looks like, but it says, "Are you looking for a dedicated mortgage lender who understands the Flagstaff, Arizona market inside out? ? Look no further than Chris Hallows, your expert mortgage professional committed to helping you achieve your home ownership dreams." And it goes on, keeps going on like that. It does talk about Benchmark. It does talk about Wallach and Volk. It talks about your mortgage journey. So it's well written, but it's very generic.
Very generic.
Yeah, real generic. So it could be accessing other people's lender bios or the bio for specific lenders around the nation and kind of compiling them, putting them together. So nothing real major.
Yeah, well, and that's where I think we could be getting to so if I ask, who is Realtor Gary Nelson of Flagstaff, Arizona? Does it know that?
I asked it to do that a few months back, probably in February. Of course, it's getting smarter as time goes on.
Yeah.
I asked it the same kind of question, and it blended a couple of Gary Nelsons.
It
said that I started off as an appraiser, which isn't true. So yeah.
Well, so look at this one. Look at this one.
Okay.
If you're looking for information about a specific realtor, I recommend conducting a search on popular real estate websites, local directories, or use search engines to find relevant information about Gary Nelson or any specific realtor in Flagstaff, Arizona. You can also consider reaching out to local real estate agencies or associations in Flagstaff for assistance in finding the information you're seeking. Not super helpful.
No.
Not super helpful on that. So that's and I think as we're trying to get to this in as people are trying to compile high level data here.
Mm-hmm.
And I did ask it, are homes or is real estate depreciating? I just asked it that too. And it just gave me consider factors of supply and demand, economic conditions, interest rates, local desirability. So it didn't really give an opinion on that. Which again, kind of like you said, if it's looking for numeric statistics, right? Because you would, like Realtor.com and Zillow.com are doing that type of data analytics. And I know that I'm sure they're using some type of intelligence to do that type of analytics.
Oh, they have economists. They have their own chief economists that blog, and it's readily available. They could actually tap into that.
Exactly.
The National Association of Realtors has great economists, economics department, where they're brilliant people, and they write real well.
Yes,
and they're available.
Yep. So. And they have ChatGPT do it, and then they just add in they sprinkle in their stats.
Yeah, that could be.
So let's maybe ask it. So getting out of the data, let's ask it some. So let's say how to get a seller to accept your offer, or let's see, your offer to purchase their home. And let's see how generic this is, where it's pulling this. Let's see what it says here. Okay, it's spitting already. So
it goes fast.
I love it.
Yeah,
faster than I can think.
It is very fast. Yeah.
Okay, so this is this is your area of expertise. So I'm going to ask you how you feel it does here, and if there's things you'd add. So understanding the real estate market, researching the local market to know if it's a buyer or seller's market. You may need to be more competitive on your offer. So just generically saying know the temperature of your market is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And price it right, make a competitive offer on market value and recent comparable sales. Your real estate agent can help you determine an appropriate offer price, avoid lowball offers that may offend the seller and jeopardize negotiations. How relevant are those points in this market right now?
I think they're relevant, but they're pretty generic. It's...
So how would you differ on those 2 points?
I think a professional realtor would give you some tricks to actually get things done. Probably talk about, in Arizona, the additional clause addendum and maybe non-refundable earnest money or escalation clauses and things like that. So this isn't going to put anybody out of business anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, and so it says, so we have then the game price, right? And those are some generic kind of precursors. Get pre-approved. That's definitely not a bad one.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I think the majority of market has that figured out, right. But there are some people who still, I had 2 weekends ago, and it's that hot kind of spring market, and you got a lot of second home buyer action. You got a lot of that, love it, hate it. You got a lot of that NAU parent buyer action. And those folks are like, hey, I'm thinking of buying something on a Friday afternoon. Right. And so it's and of course we were rushing through pre-qualification stages and things. So that one catches me off guard a little bit more often than I would think. And I know it's mostly the buyers. I know you as predominantly as the realtor professional are advising them, hey, you should really get your ducks in a row. And then they're kind of looky-looing, but then they heat up real fast.
It has to go real quick. All of a sudden, sometimes it's just all of a sudden
I get that. And I get that it's a human nature piece that we may not ever overcome.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can be in contact with people and be trickling information to them for months and months and months. And then all of a sudden there they are. Yeah. And
let's get granular though on a couple of these. So it says, be flexible with contingencies. You were kind of talking about that though. Right. So it says limit the number and scope of contingencies in your offer, such as home inspections or repairs, financing, or specific closing dates. Sellers may favor offers with fewer contingencies as they streamline the process and reduce uncertainty.
That's not bad.
So not bad. Generic,
But not bad.
What are some contingencies? So in the additional addendum clause, that's kind of geared up specifically to that.
Right.
Right. Is to say, hey, we're comfortable, because Arizona contract was, would you, well, it's pretty, I don't know. I'd be interested to see. And I know you worked at the state association, you worked at the local association. Would you say that the Arizona contract favors the buyer or favors the seller?
Oh, absolutely favors the buyer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would agree.
And the additional clause addendum specifically, most of those points in that different clauses in there are geared towards multiple offer situations.
Yep.
So you could, if you were cash, you can put in an appraisal, or if you have a loan, you can do away with the effect of the appraisal. You're still subject to it, as
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. You still have to satisfy the lender, right?
Sure.
But you could also limit the overage of an appraisal.
Or shortfall.
$2,000 shortfall. Yeah. $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever you want to do. So
Yeah.
those are pretty strong. Non-refundable earnest money. It's a weak clause for non-refundable earnest money because it's subject to 3 different things. But it's all geared towards a buyer being successful in multiple offer situation.
How many times have you found it in your experience then on the list side where some of those, because that's where I'm curious, and I understand that anything we talk about is obviously very, very case by case.
Sure,
right?
Of course.
And so, but that's the interesting thing, I guess. Sorry, I'm thinking of things as I'm talking here too. Is I've found. So question: are you surprised by how many buyer's agents don't do simple research?
Yes.
And where I'm going with that is,
actually, unfortunately, I'm no longer surprised. But yeah, it's surprising sometimes what they don't do when it comes to researching.
Yeah, well, and that's where, to me, and some of that is the matter of when we talk about a seller accepting highest and best.
Mm-hmm.
Highest is then an easy measurable metric. Is it the highest offer or is it not the highest offer? That's easy, right? It's numerical. Sure. It's binary.
Right.
One is higher than the other.
But it's both terms and conditions, right? Conditions can be a part of it.
Well, yes. So yes. You can interpret that several different ways. But when I'm talking about, and then when I think of best, I think of that's where it's the terms and everything of saying then you don't know what that seller really then, what is their highest value? Is it really the price, or is it the fact that they need to get out quicker, or they need, or they have other things that they may value,
right,
that you can speak to in your
what's important to the seller.
Yeah.
It's very important for a buyer's agent to know what's important to the seller. Have that conversation with the listing agent. That's probably that's absolutely paramount. It really is.
And I don't think that that's an issue. So this is your ethics, right? Mm-hmm. And your realtor ethics, to say that it's not, if it's information you would give to everyone that called you, right? Would you pretty much say that? Is if it's like, hey, this seller needs a quick close.
Right.
And, you won't necessarily maybe put that in the listing or advertisement. Maybe you have your additional notes sometimes in the MLS do you put some things like that in there sometimes if there's a high priority there, or is it more so you're kind of careful?
Not so much. I think you can.
You don't want to show. You don't want to give them like they're desperate or something situation.
Yeah, of course. But sometimes if a seller needs to close before a certain date or after a certain date, definitely put that in the private remarks.
Yeah.
Also, anything else that might be important to them. Sometimes a seller needs to stay in a property for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So something like that. And typically it's that type of something that's important to the seller, that it's that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, but what's interesting too, so I'll go there a little bit. I don't want to make you uncomfortable with fair housing, but
you can't make me uncomfortable about fair housing.
Yeah, no, and it's not, but it's really not that, and that's why I think it's so funny that there's this. There are some stigmas around certain aspects there, but if you find out, so things like, hey, they need a post possession. Hey, they need a because they're not moving for a little while or something, or I guess the kids are finished with school now or finishing school now. And so like, they don't want to move until the kids, they move to the next school or something. So, but you also have things of, like the personal connection factor. Like I had one where, the seller was an artist and obviously had done a lot of things to the home and other features in their decor in general, where the buyer being able to just acknowledge and appreciate the seller opened a door.
That's a very good point, because that's definitely pulling on the heartstrings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could say, and that's where, again, love it or hate it. And this is not a fair housing issue to say, and we're talking with, we had Bob Baronis on last week to just say, one of the biggest things, if you say, hey, I'm going to appreciate your home. And then it's like, who's going to do this more? Cause like, I'm from, this is a second home. I'm going to really appreciate it versus like, I'm going to raise, or be careful there. But this is going to be a primary residence.
No, what you're trying to say, and I'll flat out say this. I had a property listed for sale. This is a long time ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago. Had a property listed for sale, and it was a person that was a congressperson, and he or she said, "I want to make sure that this goes to a family."
Yeah.
So now there's different definitions of what a family is, but it was under his definition of or her definition of family, But and it worked out fine. We didn't have to get into any. We didn't have to rub up against anything. But what he was trying to say, or I'll just flat out say what he was trying to say is, I just don't want it to go to an investor, or maybe I'm going to give it to a family before I sell it to somebody that's going to use it as a second home. Yeah. And it just had those kind of values, and I kind of appreciate that, But he would just wanted it to be that way, and but it was interesting hearing that from someone, and but of course you are bumping up, because once you get into what's the definitions of somebody's family is.
Sure. So you have to be careful on a lot of that. Right, but I do think that that's when it comes to like, so if someone's worried about wanting to get their offer accepted, don't start spitting.
No.
Right. And that's the hard part, is I do see like there's a lot of laziness in any industry, but it occurs in the real estate industry as well. Of when it's like, hey, you just need to waive your appraisal. You need to do this. You need to do that. Right. And then like the next one here is like, demonstrate a strong earnest deposit. Consider offering a significant earnest money deposit to demonstrate your commitment to purchase the home. Sometimes that may make a difference. Sometimes that won't. Talk about that there a little bit. If you really want to show like, hey, you're swinging hard.
It can be dangerous.
It's risk.
Well, it's risk that people don't really think about, and what I mean by that is the way I caution my own clients is, if you're putting more than $3,500 down, $3,500 or more down, you're out of small claims court if you were to argue that amount, and you're into justice court. And Coconino County is the same court, different rules.
Yeah.
But if you go above $10,000, you're in superior court. Okay. So if you are going to argue about earnest money with somebody, getting back to the contract, it's typically the escrow title company gets to decide where monies go.
Yeah.
But if you are going to have a legal discussion about where your earnest money goes, those are things that a lot of people don't talk to their clients about. Is what's the risk, and how can it potentially affect you and your purchase? Yeah. And I know that's going a little deep, but it's the truth.
For sure. No, exactly. Because and that's the hard part. And we actually have in our mastermind this week, we have
an attorney.
Yeah. And that's where I love to bring an attorney in once a year.
I love to talk to attorneys, especially things along those lines,
Because because I would go so far as to say it's very rare in my career, and I'd guess it's similar for you, is most real estate transactions go off without a hitch, relatively.
That's exactly
speaking.
Right. They are, and it comes down to really brilliant people wrote the purchase contract in Arizona. It's just brilliant. And so there's ways to, what am I trying to say? There's ways to avoid going to court.
Well, and the
built
system,
into the contract.
The system is set up for success, right?
Yeah.
So you have from the due diligence that the lenders are doing when it's involved, when the title company, the real estate professions, and the myriad of affiliates of home inspectors, roof inspectors, termites, right? It's built in to have a smooth process.
It is. It is. And once again,
really
with
cool
it being written towards the buyer, it's all to make sure that the buyer satisfy themselves as to that they're getting what they're planning on getting.
But basically, almost within the same breath is when it gets ugly, it gets ugly.
It does.
And you have to, that's why these are legal agreements. These aren't just, spit handshake and we'll buy your house, that you have to be aware of that. And so, when it sounds like a good idea to, throw down heavy and, just say, hey, we're doing 20
Sometimes it can be
earnest.
dangerous to do that, to throw down heavy. For instance, waiving your inspection period.
Yeah.
That's come back and haunted a couple of realtors that I know that
really
they suggested that. And it was nothing major, but if you say you don't have an inspection period, then you don't have access to the property during the, after you open escrow. So
that's tied to access too.
Yeah, it's tied to access. Yeah. So,
okay.
And also absentee buyers, and sometimes we get a little too aggressive with buyers that are from out of town or out of state and they've never seen the property, and so it can be a little dangerous here and there. That's for sure.
Yeah. How bad of a mark is it for you if you're representing a seller and the actual buyer, so not family member or friend or anything, the actual buyer has not seen or walked the property? How negative of a mark is that for you?
I think you have to be on your game.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I closed one last year that way, but it was a lot of FaceTime and a lot of video. Sure. And hired really good professionals to make sure that it was okay. And it turned out great. It was fine. But that was a single family home. And I think that was the first time I'd ever done that. A townhouse or a condominium is easier. Yeah. Because they're all similar, if not the same, right? Yeah. So that's the way I've always looked at it, where I've had townhouses or condos and the people know the complex, or they know the floor plan. That individual property, it's pretty easy to do, but a single family home that they never saw, that's a hard one. But like I said, if you do it right, it works out fine.
Yeah. Well, and it's just dangerous. Risk, right? It's definitely risk. You have to assess on everything.
It is risk, yeah.
We were talking with Cole, his Blaine does a lot of real estate photography.
Sure. He's my guy.
And we were talking, we should have Blaine on the podcast and look at pictures and have him explain from a photographer standpoint what you're seeing and what you're actually going to get.
Putting the picture into AI and spitting it back out again, see what that does. Right? Have you seen
that'd be a whole nother thing.
AI photos?
I have seen. Yes, Cole was introducing me to that as well. But that's the hard part, is like there's a lot of, we all know that at this point in time with social media and broad photo editing and automatic photo editing and recoloring and even more advanced editing happening in AI, to where a wide angle lens can make your dining room look fantastic. Right. But it's, that's not how your eye is going to see the space, or your wife's eye is going to see the space.
Well, it's interesting because there is quite a bit of liability on digital staging, and people don't really think about that.
Yeah.
Somebody in another city or country is digitally manipulating your photos for you, which I do that as well. Other people do that.
Yeah.
Are they forcing furniture onto a wall that there's not that kind of length or space, because they're resizing the couch so that it definitely fits there. So it sounds kind of crazy, but it can be a little misleading. Recently, there hasn't been as much case law that I'm aware of, but here about 5, 6, maybe 8 years ago, when digital staging first came out, there was a lot of liability there.
Yeah, that seems like a scary place, and even just outside of, like, actually, throwing couches in a room that may or may not fit is, I think there's just nothing like there's no replacement for a firsthand experience.
Oh no, and it's just like and I'm sure we've got a few more examples, but it's the same thing. Where honestly, when I look at what this is, what ChatGPT can do for me, I've found that it enhances some verbiage that I've already written myself and makes it sound really good.
Yeah.
but I don't think it's going to be replacing me anytime soon.
Sure. No,
So,
for sure.
not anytime soon.
Especially at the level of detail
Sure.
and speed that you have to get into. Because that's another hard part is if we look at data from, and that's we've talked about this before, is our market conditions are not extremely unique on certain factors, but the speed in which we've been fluctuating in these market conditions is historic. And so that's where it's a matter of saying, okay, everyone, what you were experiencing in October, and that seems like forever ago in our minds, right? But no, that's a short 7 months behind us, right? And that market is way different than the market that we have right now.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Completely different.
Right.
And even the market, I'd probably say 3 months ago, like your February, March market versus what we're experiencing now. I mean, not only is inventory quite a bit up.
Oh, yeah. Days
but
on market is up, inventory's up.
Yeah. Buyer activity is up.
Buyer activity, sales are up. But
pre-qualifications are up.
But we had quite a bit of snow then, didn't we?
Sure.
That wasn't putting a big damper on our market. I honestly believe that.
Yeah.
As much snow as we had.
Yeah.
It was great to ski in, snowboarding.
No, it was. It was fun. Yeah. No. And so, so lots of different factors there. Let's see. So there's nothing else here on the buy or on the sell side that I think is super earth shattering. What else would you add anything else to that? As far as it does say personalize your offer, craft a personal letter to accompany your offer, explaining why you love the property, how you would envision yourself living there, and appeal to the emotion connection with the seller. I disagree with you.
Okay.
I think I have seen this win.
I'm sure you have
love
seen
it, hate it.
Win.
I have seen it win.
I have seen it be a massive fair housing violation. Massive.
So, that is like, again, just as it states here, there's no fair housing violations. Envision yourself living there and appeal to the emotional connection to the seller. So that's where you could say, we want to live in this as a primary residence. We love or love your forest access.
Right.
And obviously you have taken great care, meticulous care of this home. I look forward to doing the same. Those types of things. You're not touching race, religion, gender, ethnicity, sexual preference, orientation. You're not touching any of those.
No, you're not. Like I said earlier.
Now there's a lot of sloppy love letters.
Yeah, there are some sloppy ones. Where I've seen
our kids are going to love the playground down the street. Boom, fair housing violation.
Potentially, and it's not necessarily a fair housing violation. But I've had clients say to me, "I don't want to sell this house to people with children." Does that make sense?
Well,
and I said, why is that? And he said, because there's so many kids on this street, I'm not going to do that to my neighbors. But I made sure they had no idea what the history was.
There you go.
Was children, because and it was my own clients. But I don't want to be a part of something like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's an extreme.
Well, but I think that comes down to the first part of know your audience. Right. And you can, and I'm a little crazy like this, is like, I love to, I've sat in this industry now for 14 years here in Flagstaff. Mm-hmm. So anytime I'm considering buying a property, I've done this before where I will go like deep dive stalker. Like I'm going to grab their property tax information. I'm going to go on Eagle Recorder. I'm going to see as much information as I can see that's publicly recorded of when they bought the home, what they may have bought the home for, what type of, you can see if there's a loan amount recorded. Mm-hmm. You don't see interest rates or terms of the loan, but you can see
what the original loan amount was.
What the original loan amount could have been. So you can make some ideas on like, could the seller be really, are they just making gravy on the home? Pretty much all sellers are right now. But, and then you can, then grab their names and social and Google search. And so I had found
it's amazing what you can find out about something.
Yeah. So on one property, this is a while back that I was looking at this property, this unique home that was like, it was in an idealistic location. So it's up near, across from you. Mm-hmm. So it's up near the Schultz Creek area. Mm-hmm. Right. So very desirable, not a lot of density. Right. And it was an old home though. Like old home. Right.
Sounds great, actually.
And yeah. And so I was like, so that's what I was thinking. Like, boom, let's figure this out. And it was this like a widow selling the home, and I was jumping on. I found out like her husband served in the war and like had these honors and like all these different things that I was calculating in my head. Like, how do I approach this individual then? Should I decide to offer?
Right.
My contractor told me not to offer on the home, so we didn't. Because all my ideas, he's like, no. Step one is you remove the entire home, and then step two is you'd build a new one. So don't do that. Right. But that's where I think that comes in. Know your audience, right? If you're looking at this home and you're seeing, okay, there's no sign of children, or there are signs of children, or there are, like, again, you don't want to appeal. You got to be careful. You really should be careful with the fair housing piece, but in knowing how do you appeal in your terms. And by just simple observations, simple conversation with list agent, you would be blown away. If your agent's not doing that and you're not saying, who am I buying this house from? Not just like, I want to buy the house. If you don't know who you're buying the house from, I would say you're greatly disadvantaged.
Yeah. And we've kind of said that in two different ways now so far.
Yeah.
Is to know what's important to the seller, but also know who the seller is, or at least some of the history of who they are, where they've been.
Easily accessible.
And if I could back up,
please.
I've got something in my mind here.
Yes, please.
Just wanted to back up anybody that's going, aha, in there. With my clients that didn't want children, I did educate them about fair housing, and we didn't have a problem at all.
Sure.
So that was one of those things. If it would have been further along than that, I would have said, sorry, I can't represent you, but somebody had to educate them about it.
Well, and that's the heart, and that's why there's realtor representation, right?
That's exactly
where you have to say, hey, you, Mr. Buyer Seller, do not know fair housing regulations. Right. I do. You may have a thought in your mind, but let me tell you, like, I could think about. I'm just trying to think of some law I should think about breaking. But, it's like a matter of like, I wish I could drive like 20 miles an hour faster down the freeway and get to my destination sooner. But just thinking about it doesn't mean I violated it, right? And so that's the matter of like, if people are saying, hey, this, or the other, you're like, that's where you have to steer. Or even like a buyer to say, hey, I want to write this in my letter to say, hey, like, these are the things that are important, but also from a sales standpoint, not just from to edit those down sometimes I think is powerful to say, hey, they're seeing a lot of offers right now. These are the couple of highlights that will be, that those are the check boxes.
Right.
Primary residence, love your home, want to take care of it.
Right.
But all these other things about like, let me tell you about the story of my daughter, whatever, what I'm saying? Like,
it can be dangerous. You never know what somebody's
not just dangerous, but also unnecessary.
Unnecessary. And it comes back to the people that didn't want children, and it's kind of far-fetched, but there it was a real thing. I think videos are a mistake. There are people that do videos, and I ran into somebody at a party and they were sending videos. I suggested they not, and then they wound up, and it wasn't my client, but I was just repeating what the National Association of Realtors has said about love. We call them love letters. Right? Love letters or videos and that type of thing. And I just repeated what they said, and it turned out to be good advice, because they wound up getting a house the next one they offered on.
Oh, without a video.
Without a video.
Yeah.
Whether they thought that was a really good idea, but I don't think it was. And I don't want to go into details as to why. But let's just say some people could potentially judge them by what they saw in the video. Let's just say.
Yeah. Well, and that's like you said. And I just think like putting a good, strong foot forward versus overdoing it. Right. No one, and it's almost like that if you're trying too hard, right? When you have, should you have the benefit of reviewing 3 to 5 different offers, and then one, all of them look pretty, like, you feel comfortable probably as a seller of saying, hey, these are all in a similar format. I'm able to put them against each other. And then all of a sudden this one has a video, right? It just seems like, I think that can be confusing to a seller sometimes.
I know that at least one of the realtors in my office just refused to put a love letter forward to a seller recently, because it was in a multiple offer situation and felt like that could potentially be damaging to that buyer for one reason or another.
And that's interesting, where it's a matter of protecting the buyer.
Yeah, which is what we all need to do, right? Protected classes are protected classes, and getting, this is going to sound kind of flip, but we're all in protected class, everybody.
Yes.
So if we treat everybody the exact same way, then everybody gets treated properly, and that's the important part.
Exactly. No, I like that. And that's just like you said, is someone might be thinking that they're appealing to someone by advertising the kids and then another, but someone might see like that's down. So be careful and stick to, and I'd say that anyone doing those, again, I'm a fan. So I love that we have a broad conversation on this.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a fan of crafting a personal letter with then the caveat of keeping it simple and keeping it outside of fair housing.
Maybe let ChatGPT write it for you. That way we know it's generic.
We should.
We should.
Let's do one real quick.
One, yeah.
So write a letter to a seller of a home explaining how they should sell to you. I'm going to leave it vague. Right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to give it any prompts.
I like it.
I'm not going to give it any prompts, and let's see if it starts like coming up with that kind of stuff and violate. Does just ChatGPT violate fair housing? The moment I stepped in front of your property, I was captivated by its charm and design and the sense of warmth it exudes. It truly feels like I could envision my dream home. I'd love to take the opportunity. Let's see. As a prospective buyer, I would be an ideal for the purchase. I've been searching for a home that meets my needs. This resonates with my taste and style. Let's see. Moreover, I've taken care to ensure my financial readiness and have great ability with my pre-qualification letter. I appreciate, let's see. I would maintain it. I'll be committed as a responsible homeowner. I look forward to, being highly communicative during the process.
This isn't bad. It ticks off all your boxes, right?
It does. Yeah. And I think that where if you just basically are able to say, like, and so I will tell you, so I did, so in my real estate history past, like I did have, like, it's weird though, because people, like you said, people are in different places. And my first letter that I ever crafted was probably, I basically said this is going to be a forever home. Like we're raising a family. We want to, so I did say family. And
you said children.
Love this place and can see ourselves enjoying all the seasons here and everything. So it was more so emotional and just long term and primary residence. That seller had gone through a very negative family event that led to the sell of the home. A family member had passed, and it was important for them through our inspection period to meet our kids.
Those are some pretty cute little towheads you've got.
Yeah.
So I can understand why.
We didn't send a picture before, so I'm glad they didn't come up with
Those are cute kids.
A way to try. So it's interesting. It's interesting, right? And so that's where, but again, so I'm saying that's from personal experience where I didn't know. Well, I didn't know that about the home. I couldn't assess all those different details. Other than I believe I knew someone had passed, and it was that's why the state was selling it and different things, but didn't know a lot of the back end there. So we've digressed on that one for quite some time here, though. But what else? What are we missing?
Well, I would say this, kind of put a bow on my experience with ChatGPT.
Yeah,
is that I found that it does not do very good research. But I think that what I've utilized it for, which has been a win, was I took what I have written myself and asked it to change it.
Okay.
So, for instance, I put a property on the market that I had on the market last year. So I took the verbiage that I used in the MLS. I wanted to change it, but I wanted to say the same thing and change it around a little bit. So I took that out, put it into ChatGPT, and it sounds much better than I do.
Okay.
And I've been, of course, this one thing we do is we write property descriptions, and I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but it's better.
It's better.
Yeah, it's better. It starts off with nestled in Flagstaff's tranquil Ponderosa Trails, this custom-built home offers. So it sounds good right off the bat.
It is
tranquil. And I don't think I would say nestled.
What was it that I had? I think I was telling you my brother-in-law wrote a review for me, and I have done a loan for him. Right. So it wasn't just like a family thing. Sure. He'd been a client, and he's in law enforcement. And the first line was like, It was. Oh, I should pull this up here. Let me see real quick.
So you could ask him to put it into Chat GPT and make it.
Well, no, he. So when I was looking at the review, let me see here. When he wrote the review, I started to read it. I was like, man, he really took some time to do this. And I was like, wait, he just did Chat GPT. And so,
So
but
you could tell
it was pretty quick. Not only because it was like 3 paragraphs.
It spit out pretty quick. He emailed it back to you immediately.
Well, that
Maybe he'd been thinking about this all along, how much he loves you, Chris.
let me find it here. Oh, why am I not finding myself on Google here? Let's see if I can find it here because the line itself was like pretty hilarious. I don't know. We're not finding things here. Yeah, it was something of like what I found to be like outstanding, right? Or something where like,
there's no way you ever talk
like that. Yeah. So again, you're not going to be like nestled.
Nestled in, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, that's we've almost been wrapping up for about 45 minutes on this. So I love the factor that we can kind of put ChatGPT in a place when it comes to real estate that it can write really cool descriptions on things once you've given it some direction.
I think giving it proper direction is the key.
And it can give you basically a 50-year perspective on real estate on like, watch your interest rates. And, but as far as like what's happening this week in real estate, and that's where I've been telling a lot of people, like I've never published interest rates before because they fluctuate and they're so dependent on different factors. But for the last several months, we've been sending out to our realtor partners on like, this is where rates are going because they have been changing drastically.
Right.
I had a client who was talking to me and he had an offer not work out for him 2 months ago. He's like, I think we're going to wait and hold off. And I just had said, I haven't sent you the recent rates. And he was saving $200 a month.
Oh, wow.
So it's already, from if they were at like a 6.8 or a 7.1,
right.
And all of a sudden now we're talking, they really pushed up a little bit this week so far, but we're talking like more mid to low 6s depending on the situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that makes a difference. So it really is that speed. I don't think ChatGPT can keep up with just right.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it can. And I've found it very lacking in statistics, but
yeah.
And those are all numbers, that's for sure.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, awesome, Gary. Well, thank you for joining us here on another
Thanks
episode.
Thanks for letting me come back over. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm your first repeat.